What's up guys, and welcome back to another video. In this video you will understand why the sweetest, most ear-soothing, most well-meant advice can lead to pain and resentment. After watching this video you will know how to distinguish good advice from bad advice, what to look out for, and how your ego plays a very big part in this. We will look at what coaches say to their fighters in the cage. We will look at some good examples and some bad examples. Some examples that are really well meant but lead to defeat, and some examples that lead to the victory. And finally, I'm going to give you some relatable examples. If you stick until the end of this video, you will know exactly what to look out for in advice, from which people you take which sort of advice from. But first, I'm going to use a little analogy between our brain and nervous system, controlled by the mind, and missiles. So in the front end of the missile, you have the radar, you have the sonar, and you have the heat-seeking device. So what happens is, when you shoot the missile, it goes in a certain direction. The devices inside, they collect the feedback from the surroundings. So it knows exactly on what altitude it has to be, where exactly it's located, and through the heat-seeking devices inside, it corrects course. If it receives positive feedback, it does nothing but continue on its course. Because it knows, if I'm continuing on this road, I will reach my target. The missile actually steers or changes direction when it receives negative feedback. When the heat-seeking device inside says, oh wait, here's more heat, I have to steer this way. Or when the altitude meter inside says, oh, we have to go a little bit higher or down. It is by the negative feedback, it is able to change its course to reach its objective. So now you know that when the missile receives positive feedback, it knows its own course, it doesn't change anything and just continues its way. And it is with the negative feedback that the missile knows it's on the wrong trajectory, is able to change course and reach its objective. Now I want you to think about that for a second. Because what would happen if the missile is on the wrong course but gets positive feedback, was headed towards a mountain or towards the water, not towards its goal? I found a video of bad coaching advice in the cage. So when I saw this, I was like, yeah.
You're good, babe. That's beautiful. You won 2 rounds. Okay? Now you can coast this round. You're doing freaking awesome. Amazing.
For the winner by split decision, Takeo Mizugaki!
So what you saw with the first video was that his wife or girlfriend told him he did a good job. It was 2-0. He could chill, he could calm down. And then in the next scene, you see the pain in his eyes. You see the disbelief in his eyes. He lost. And why? Because he listened to well-meant advice.
Is he in the booth? You're doing it right. You're doing it right, right? You hit a crowd, that's just reassurance.
In the other fragment, coach said she was doing great. He even used the crowd as reassurance. And in the next scene, you see the pain and resentment in her eyes. She can't believe it. She listened to someone else. The only person she is mad at, it's not her coach, it's herself. She's disappointed in herself that she listened to somebody else. I think you get the point. I want to show you a video what good advice can do to you. Judge for yourself.
Stop feeling sorry for your fucking self. Well, come on then. What's wrong with you? You're too fucking down. You gotta pull the shit out of the fire. Stay sure. Come on, Leon, man. You got it, man.
You see, cheering up just to go a little bit harder, a little bit more, a little bit aggressive. And I think that sort of advice is valuable, which is supporting advice. This takes me back to when I used to train in the calisthenics park, because there were days I was training alone and there were days I was training with a group. And I remember the days I was training with a group, there were always a few guys pushing me, like, you can't do any more, stop, take a deep breath and give me 5 more. You can't do 5, do 3, do 2 push-ups on your knees, something. We had this saying like, you have to fly, but if you can't fly, you have to run. And if you can't run, you have to walk. And if you can't walk, you have to crawl. I'm not saying you should live that way in every aspect of your life at any times. This is really important. You can't give it your 100% at everything, because there needs to be some sort of balance, right? If you're training 7 days a week, you cannot give every day your all. 7 days a week, you shouldn't even train 7 days a week. That's not good for you. But the place where I was coming from, in the beginning, we just trained 7 days a week because I needed to. Don't train 7 days a week, but make sure you're surrounded by people who challenge you to be the best version of yourself. Another little thing you want to look out for in advice is the intention and the comprehension of the other party. So a few years ago, I used to buy a lot of courses because I was fully into self-development and I was trying my online marketing business, I assume. Anyway, I bought a lot of courses and I soon figured out I didn't look at their intention. Their intentions were just to sell me so they could make money, of course. The basic skill level they put in was not with the intention to get me to the $1 million they promised, you know. I was so naive. I didn't look at who the person was. So were they competent? They were really competent sales and marketing guys, but were they competent in what they taught, what they teach? Because that's another thing. You have preachers and you have practitioners. You have to be careful. It's like you take personal training from a overweight personal trainer. Like, what the fuck are you to tell me how to lose weight if yourself 120 kilos with 30% fat? How? Anyway, little thing to touch on: competence and intention. Or if the person is saying you're doing great for his standard. And with that I mean, like, you have like a beginner trainer and you have like an experienced trainer. And for the beginner trainer, everything what the experienced one does, what the beginner can't do, will be great. In the end, it just comes down to who you spend time with. And this became clear to me a while ago. Because when I look back, the most growth I had, or the best trainings I had, were with the guys who were cheering me up, who were pushing me forward. It comes down to listen carefully to who you take advice from. Seek people who not necessarily say what you want to hear. And that's where the ego comes in play. I totally forgot to talk about that. Because many people don't want to hear negative feedback. And that's alright. But sometimes when somebody has like negative feedback, turn off your ego, listen to it, make corrections, try again, and see what the new outcome is. You never know until you experience it. You have a choice here. Only listen to the people who say what sounds good to your ear, or do you also take some negative feedback into consideration, change course, learn to turn off your ego, and to possibly even grow more. I remember like the days I was training alone and I did not always push myself to the limit. I sometimes went home, I regretted it. Like, why did I not do those last 5 reps? Or why did I not push harder? Was this really the best I can do? And that regret really hurts. Trust me, that can hurt you. Especially when the regret is not only for one training, but maybe for you wanted to do something like way back and you didn't do it because you maybe listened to specific advice. So this is the reason when somebody says you're doing great, it's actually the worst advice you can get. If the person is not competent, if the intention is not right, is saying you're doing great for his standard. Everything what the experienced one does, what the beginner can't do, will be great. So 3 things to look out for in advice. And with this said, I want to thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. I still got 2 spots left. If you just want to have a regular chat with me, send me an email. And with this said, I want to thank you for watching.